Lost a few of you. We're going to take it a little slow at the start here. Hopefully get everybody back in time. Very annoying. Very annoying. But that's fine. We're here now. We'll do what we do. Much better. Hey guys, thanks for your patience. We're back on this. Anyways, where did I leave off? Married Man Sex Life Primer. We're on part 2 of episode 2. As I described before, what were we doing last episode? Last episode, we were talking about alpha and beta as a means of categorizing behaviors. So a lot of guys think alpha male is good, beta male equals bad. Alpha male equals sexual, beta male equals simp. It's not the case. The best way you can think about it is to map alpha to dopamine and beta to oxytocin and serotonin. The comfortable stuff and the desirable stuff. We went through how a lot of guys go through that process where those alpha qualities that they had initially attracted them to their woman. Then the beta qualities slowly picked up over time. The alpha qualities went away. Guys end up betaizing themselves. Betaization is what they call it. I always hate that term. It's such a big pain in the ass to speak about. Anyways. Then, and here's the worst part of it, it's that girls don't know what they want because what they're attracted to and what they say they're attracted to aren't the same things because girls just are unaware of their sexual triggers. And it makes sense. Back in the day, I used an example of dogs. The dog's sexual strategy is to run faster than the girl he wants and to basically not be scared when she tries to bite him. It can sound good, it can sound bad, it's pretty brutal, but you can't argue it's not a thing. And hundreds of thousands of years ago, and we're not talking about how it was in the 1950s versus today, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of years ago, eons, genetic timescales here. Women found certain behaviors attractive, and the super hunting mongoloid who just took what he wanted and didn't care much got a girl attracted because that guy tended to make better cave babies. And so girls that had better cave babies with him tended to survive, and the ones that didn't tended not to. So girls are kind of hardwired for this measure of strength and everything that you would consider a dopamine producing ability or an alpha quality. At the same time, these aren't helpful in modern society. You can't go to your job in IT and then expect that you walking in there AMOGing everybody's going to do much. Yeah, it'll make you very attractive to women, but you're going to get booted out of society rather quickly. You'll end up in jail or loading trucks the rest of your life, which isn't good. On that note, it's this weird, I don't know, double-edged sword, I guess we can call it, where the things that make you attractive and the things that make you useful have no overlap. And so for a lot of guys, what you have to do is you have to carve out a niche with a certain element of alpha qualities and a certain element of beta qualities in order to survive in whatever your relationship or sexual status is right now. So if you're a guy that just wants one night stands, you don't need much comfort. And as far as comfort goes, being good in bed is a beta behavior. Yeah, it turns out, and it makes sense if you think about it too, it turns out if you're the kind of guy who can smash very well, a girl will want you back for more. And so it builds her comfort with you. Builds comfort with you, gets a relationship going. Now, from an alpha standpoint, whether a girl gets hers or not is absolutely irrelevant. So as much as you say good alpha men do this or that in bed, it's not the case. Take what you want, get out. It turns out a girl can actually be kind of turned on from cavemanning. They may not know it, they may complain about it, they may bitch about it, and those strong feelings are the emotional response to that dopamine hit she's getting. So it's something to be aware of. A lot of things, and this is very important on your part, you need to categorize your behaviors on whether they increase a relationship's longevity or they decrease a relationship's longevity while increasing desire. Not getting the categories mixed up is very important because for a lot of guys, they think, well, I have a good job and I'm a good father. Those are comfort qualities. If you start saying alphas have those qualities, well, then you're just miscategorizing things and you're going to end up making all sorts of stupid decisions. Thank you again, by the way. I see, so we had some technical errors on this episode getting started the first time. Had a ton of likes, tons of viewers, and we've managed to get most of you guys back. We lost a couple likes in the process, but hey, you can't screw up an omelet without breaking a couple eggs, so. Getting back to the point, though. From where Athol talks about here, finding the alpha and beta balance. The man needs to develop both alpha and beta traits in a long-term relationship and show them appropriately. Without the alpha, the woman loses attraction and wants out. But without the beta, the woman isn't comfortable enough to stay in the relationship. Men typically do better with one or the other of these traits, and in times of pressure, like a breakup, act more and more from their position of natural strength. Natural alpha type qualities, guys will get bigger and louder and become scarier and less reliable. People that are naturally more beta side will do more stuff for women and bore her to death with her neediness even faster. So more often than not, our natural reactions to relationship stress just intensifies the relationship problem. So if you're too beta, the solution is to add more alpha. If you're too alpha, the solution is to add more beta. Now, I am saying this with about as much certainty as a man can. If you're watching this video and you're having any amount of relationship problems, I guarantee you your problem isn't you're doing too much alpha. There may be an exception, but for the most part, the kind of person who's aloof, building good, strong desire, has alpha stuff in check, doesn't watch this stuff on the internet. They just don't. So in general, your process should be, against all better judgment, to start acting more aloof, start treating your girl more like a one-night stand, start acting with less concern over her happiness and more concern over your own. Next part, he talks about the menstrual cycle briefly, which this is like a topic into and of itself. It affects what women are attracted to throughout the month. Now, I know the study, like you read studies on it, it kind of goes back and forth between the estrous cycle being a thing, it not being a thing. I'm leaning towards the side where it is a thing because I can already see in my girl the change in behavior based on the time of the month it is. So you can't tell me that science can't figure that out. And it says for about 3 weeks of the month, women respond more positively to beta behavior, but when she's ovulating, alpha behavior is more attractive, which it makes sense. That's why a girl's ovulatory cycle is hidden. It's so that way you encourage more investment from the males. Otherwise, if it's just something that you could be in heat for, then guys would be there for 2 days and then, hit it and bounce. Having said that, the way we think of, when we think of how much beta do you need versus how much beta you actually need, completely out of whack. So in general, what guys are finding is when they try to calibrate these things, like by paying attention to them, it never works. So what you need to do, what is better for you to do as a strategy, is just build more alpha. And then wait till you get to a point where it actually starts having relationship issues that goes against what you're shooting for. Now, this doesn't mean a girl getting mad. A lot of guys think they're adding alpha until the girl starts to get mad, get into a huff. It's like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking like snot bubble, pure desperation. There's actually a red pill thing that happens in a relationship. It's called the main event. It doesn't get talked about very much here, but it's very important, and most guys who are switched on already know about it. So in a process, a guy will run through his map, run through dread game. He will get to a point in the relationship where he's upping the alpha qualities he has, downgrading the beta qualities he's had, commensurate with the value he's getting in a relationship. And for most guys, they're in pretty dire straits. So acting as if you're single tends to be the way they lean. A girl, what she sees from her perspective, is a guy becoming top tier and disengaging. Now, a lot of girls, they have too much baggage built up for the way the guy was over years. Other girls, though, and this is like a vast majority of them, start to see that they're losing the game. And so they kind of step up. But the same time is they're very stubborn. So they don't like to change themselves. They'd rather you just change and go back to the way you were. What happens at a certain point is, and I call it like the snot bubble. If it's no snot bubbles and crying, it didn't happen. But a main event is kind of a girl at her most desperate. I don't know how to keep you around. I don't know how to make you happy. And she'll speak overtly about this, which girls never do unless they absolutely have to. This is a main event. And this is usually when a guy has gotten to the point where he's added enough alpha qualities to his relationship for a certain amount of time, and he's flipped the power dynamic around. And now it's a point that you make that decision where she's stepping up her game because she wants to. Do you want to keep her around or not? Most guys tend to. They're like, yeah, that's all I wanted was you to put some effort into it. It took all of this to get you there. It's just the way they're wired. They're not trying to mess with you. They just don't know any better. So he goes on here. There can be a misunderstanding that alpha behavior involves some sort of purposeful aggression towards the wife, like yelling, hitting, property destruction, issuing humiliating demands, public shaming, or demeaning. Some of the things are alpha in the same way that they are seeking to enforce social dominance, but they only act in the man's best interest very short term. Violence seriously undercuts any positive beta traits and will ultimately destroy the relationship. And while thugs do attract some women, I certainly do not advise that approach to relationships, as most women give thugs a very wide berth. I would say aside from that, breaking the law is not a good sexual strategy unless you like taking it up the cornhole. Like I said, if you're going to be one of those guys that has 100% alpha characteristics, you're probably going to end up in prison. And yeah, he's right here. When people think alpha, they think, oh, I got to be this guy, this hyper thug. You can do that, but just be understanding that the consequences there are pretty bad. And for most guys, it works against what they're trying to do. So again, tactically applied alpha can be a huge demand. I would argue also frame kind of falls into this thing, which is outside of like the alpha and beta mindset. This is more about a guy's internal compass. So there is no greater loss of frame than having to resort to violence. It means that every other tool you've used has become insufficient to achieve your aims, which means you just don't have the skill to get what you want. So right there, instead of getting angry, and for the most part, anger is a social emotion. It's a way of saying, you're causing a grievance in my life, and I want you to stop it or violence will ensue. It's a social emotion that way. It signals. Not the most attractive quality. Being aloof, more socially adept in that, while they are kind of beta characteristics, they are very attractive ones and more useful in the modern society. So again, this is one of those things where you have to apply your best judgment to it. How much controlled anger versus how much social adeptness do you want to apply in a situation? And this is where it involves you finding yourself a good balance. So remember, beta isn't about being a weak man that struggles to please a woman. Beta is about purposefully creating a place to raise a family and creating comfort in your presence. There are some natural conflicts between alpha and beta traits, but also some overlap. So next part here is we go over some basic archetypes, the nice guy and the bad boy. And he uses nice guy slightly different than Robert Glover does, so we'll do some translation in here. If you don't know what I'm talking about with that nice guy stuff, there's a series prior to this one, No More Mr. Nice Guy by Robert Glover. You'll see it in the sidebar. I got a playlist. It's on the channel. Feel free to check it through. You're essentially getting your PhD in red pill this way. We're still at the first year stuff, so it'd be pretty interesting. But a bad boy is somebody with a very high profile of alpha behaviors, but minimal beta traits. These are the guys who can coast in a relationship on the natural attraction women have for them. They typically have a very masculine appearance in dress, demeanor, and body shape, but while bad boys certainly do pull women, their relationships tend to be short. Eventually, the women become uncomfortable with their lack of comfort, and they move on. A lot of guys have already experienced this, where they are too alpha. Well, not too alpha, but too alpha for the girl's liking. And this is the ones where she wants to find herself a husband eventually, epiphany phase girls, and they'll date this guy because he turns her on. And he knows, like, yeah, while you're looking for Mr. Right, I'll be your Mr. Right now. And then, sure enough, she eventually finds the guy she wants to settle down with. Plates fall, plates break. It's all plate theory for a reason. So she drops off the radar to go do her boyfriend thing. The guy's pretty cool with that. And then what a lot of guys find is that the girl will get bored of her nice, safe option and then call back Chad. Hey, yeah, I really love him so much and he's great. He's giving me all the serotonin, the oxytocin I want, but I'm missing that dopamine. So what are you up to this weekend? You want to grab a bottle of wine and talk about old times? 2 things to take away from that, by the way. 1, letting a girl go doesn't mean that you've lost her. There's a good chance that a lot of girls who go to find that safe second option will eventually get that itch and come calling back. Second thing to take away from that, as that guy who wants the relationship, be aware that not having enough of those bad boy traits in your repertoire will bore a girl to the point where she will take her second sexual option here. So how you can apply that depends on your situation. You can either up alpha in your own relationships in order to keep them more loyal and keep them around because you're giving those dopamine hits as well as the serotonin. Or once you start seeing the signs that the girl is getting an itch and the dopamine kick, and we talked about it in episode 1 in the major red flags. Once you see those, maybe an old friend, maybe something else, maybe a phone on her speed dial, a number that you don't recognize, like all this stuff plays into it. And now that you know why girls do what they do, how unaware they are of the limbic brain process, you can kind of act accordingly for your own best interests. So to end this off, it's one thing to feel like a bad boy's sexy bitch when the relationship is good. It's quite another to be smacked around like one and dumped like a used whore. Again, candle that burns at both ends. Candle that burns twice as strong lasts twice or half as long. Yeah, twice as strong, half as long. And then we'll follow it up with nice guys. So a nice guy is somebody who typically has a high beta profile but minimal alpha traits. Again, this is not nice guy in the sense that Robert Glover talks about it. Robert Glover talks about nice guy as in conflict averse, validation seeking, and generally the result of failed parenting strategies. When he talks about nice guys in here, Athol Kay does, he really should have picked a better term. I guess we don't really have an alternative to the bad boy. I guess the good boy. The good boy from a nice family. The good father. Lover and provider, I think, is much better archetypes to throw onto this one. Bad boys being the lover, nice guys being the provider. It gets rid of any pejorative emotional baggage to it and just makes you understand, how do you look from a female sexual strategies perspective? Are you a lover or are you a provider? In this case, nice guy maps much better to provider than to actual nice guys. So the beta comfort seeking in women fuels the female side of the mail order bride industry, where women in poorer countries seek to jump ship to a richer one. The men who use these services typically do not present as alphas. They're just lonely men willing to assist her in coming to a life with a better standard of living and comfort in exchange for sexual companionship. Of course, those involved do not experience it as a search for love, but the men clearly present a strong beta profile of these women as a way of attracting them. However, nice guys are just too comfort creating and it all backfires. At some point, a woman gets her fill of comfort and starts wishing for sexual attraction. Do you remember when you hear all these guys, all the MGTOWs, all the black pills, all the trads, all the divorced guys, all these guys that have no idea what they're doing, but they swear to God they have all the answers when they talk about a girl is just never happy. I don't get it. I gave her everything. I'm sure you've seen, there's a comic floating around where Superman and Lois Lane's in bed and they just finished smashing, and then Lois looks over. She's like, oh, is he the best I could do? But that's exactly what we're getting at here. We're not talking about a girl that's like purposefully unsatisfied, constantly wanting to switch and switch and switch, like a monkey trading from branch to branch to branch. That's not it at all. What it is, essentially, is that she wants all those emotional hormones, and she's only getting half of them right now, and so she's searching for the other ones. That's why a lot of guys, and this is a super common story, a lot of guys, when they're talking about their relationship and their wife cheats on them, it's with some guy who's objectively not as good as them in so many beta behaviors. I don't get it. Why does she like this guy? I'm more attractive than him. I have a better job than him. He's just a lazy layabout drug dealer. Well, she's not after a better man than you or than him. She's just after something different. She's after a chemical high. She wants to feel sexy again. That dopamine hit. When girls say, I want to feel sexy, I want to feel like a woman, I want this, I want that. It's just dopamine. I want that good feeling that heroin, that only the lady dragon can give to me. That's exactly what you're hearing. So it doesn't even matter. The guy doesn't have to be better than you. He just has to be different and spike that dopamine high in order to get his. And then you, with your ultimate comfort thing, realizes that this empire of comfort that you've built, it's very expensive to dismantle. And so a lot of guys end up so addicted to their own comfort abilities that they refuse to do what they have to do to salvage their dignity. And they essentially allow themselves to be, home base after she's done slutting around. But yeah, eventually she gets her fill of comfort and starts wishing for attraction. So there's an important concept here, back to the book. When a relationship starts to flounder, the nice guy typically tries even harder to be nice to the woman. He tries harder to please her, he submits to her more, he buys her expensive gifts and caters to her more. Unfortunately, this is all the exact opposite of the woman is looking for, and the relationship gets worse as she becomes less and less attracted to him. Increasingly irritated with his attention, she starts to consider ending the relationship and cues up the I love you, but I'm not in love with you speech. So again, if you're one of those guys that's looking for a relationship expert, and I love the relationship experts because you'll find them in two flavors. One is the single girl in her 40s, and the other one is the guy who's been married for 6 months, telling you what it is. It's like, thanks, guys. But if you absolutely must find yourself a coach like that, do vet for this. how do they have you handle this hardship? When you start to have, I don't know, my wife's starting to get a lazy eye. She's starting to look, or not a lazy eye, a wandering eye. Starting to move on. She's saying she's not excited enough. We haven't slept together in 2 years. Well, what's their plan? Is that for you to do more dishes? If their plan is to add more comfort into your relationship when the problem is sexual desire, if they want to give more serotonin when you want dopamine, then just realize they don't know what they're doing. They just don't. And again, it's counterintuitive, but that's because we love to turn our vices into virtues. We love to turn our strengths into, strengths into virtues. We love to make everything that we're already doing the thing that we should be doing. So if you're the kind of guy who builds a lot of good comfort, you're the kind of guy, like I make her give the O face every time we're in bed. I have a good job. I'm great with the kids. I am not a dramatic person. I don't do drugs. I don't drink. I'm just a wonderful man. And then you wonder why she doesn't smash? Well, this is why. And your instinct is, okay, so that means I just didn't do enough of all those things. It's like, no, you did too much. Right now, what you need to do is the sexual version of getting a coke addiction, I guess. Just a little one, though. Just a little bit. Hate her just a little bit. Because that detachment from her as your source of validation will allow you to act more in your own self-interest, which again, signals in that typical caveman way, me first, you whatever. And then that always triggers a girl's dopamine response, and it will help you over the long term. This is where a lot of the strategies I talk about, like manufactured outrage, the gym bag routine, all these things rely on this very simple process that the more you pull away, the more the other girl becomes attracted. And so we end this one off on growing into wholeness, that both men and women struggle with finding the right inner balance of alpha and beta in their relationships. The ideal for women is that the soul man they are involved with has both, but it can take many men a great deal of time to learn and balance both. So, if she can't find both in one guy, she may elect to find her own balance from more than one man. And that's every guy's dream, isn't it? What is often seen in young women is a ping-ponging between bad boys and nice guys. She gets a dose of crazy sexual attraction, but then she needs the comfort building and seeks it out from a nice guy and leans on him for emotional support. The cycle repeats over and over until the music stops at around age 35 and she's scrambling to find a chair anywhere. He picks a bit of an older age. I know Rollo likes to talk about 30 to 32 being the epiphany phase, but Athol puts it at 35. I'm kind of more inclined to lean towards Athol because I see plenty of 32-year-old thoughts where I'm like, yeah, I don't think she's ready yet. Modern science has kind of made it an easier thing to do. But it's the funny thing too. So as you get through this and as you start internalizing this, and yes, it is a married man sex life primer, but every single guy should have examples of this. That time when you got over a horrible girlfriend and you just wanted to go out and smash some strange, you're going to notice you became the bad boy to that one girl. She cheated on you with her, or she cheated on her boyfriend with you, or her fiance with you. I even talk about it in my own book, Fuck Files, 2nd chapter. It was literally me thinking I had all this game practice when a girl just fell into my lap because she just wanted to get some dopamine at the end of her how great her fiance was. And she was telling me right at the time how wonderful he was. He's a great man. Boggled my mind. I'm like, how could she be talking about him being such a great man? Meanwhile, I'm here smashing. And then sure enough, it was just, I was the dopamine that time. I wasn't better. I wasn't worse. I was just different and I was exciting. Of course, it was probably also the MDMA she was taking, but I don't know that for sure. Anyways, a lot of guys see this too when they become the orbiter and they have a girl that they're super friends with, they'd love to smash, and she ends up going to sleep with that guy she can't stand. What does she do? She comes to you and complains about him and asks you for comfort, like an emotional tampon, and you offer it too because you think you have a chance at it. Again, this bouncing back and forth between nice guy and bad boy is so common. Everybody has an experience from it, unless you completely avoided women. And if that's the case, why are you even on this channel? I guess you're here to learn. Don't worry about it. Just start with history of game and we'll take it from there. A lot of guys that were dating, they'll find dating a girl, they just wanted to smash. They're just here as a plate, whatever. She wants a boyfriend. She wants a husband. You're like, yeah, it's not for me. So she leaves you and she goes to find the comfortable husband. That's the thing too. Being too alpha isn't any better of a relationship strategy than being too beta. They both have needs and they're both situational, and you really have to map the concepts to where you are in life, who you're with, and what you want out of it. Again, this should almost be instinctual. If you want to just smash and dash, all this comfortable stuff, like, who are you to earn this from me? You really put the onus on the other girl to show that you want to give her any comfort at all. Just following you to your bedroom for a night is the least she could do. Everybody can do that, so it doesn't make you special. Does she make you breakfast in the morning? Does she build you a macaroni painting you put on your fridge? Little things like that, you're like, oh, okay. All right, yeah, a little bit of comfort, sure, why not? Or maybe you just don't like her and you're like, no. Another good example of guys who accidentally become alpha. For a lot of guys who aren't very experienced with women, piece of advice that you're often given, a really good one, is to find a girl you're not attracted to, but you're still sort of attracted to, but you don't really like her. You wouldn't brag about her. In fact, you might even be a little embarrassed to say, yeah, I'm dating her. You go with her, you smash, you get it out of your system, and you realize, like, to her, you're that bad boy. Even though to the other girl that you just got dumped by, you were complete beta Billy Bucks. But yeah, you start to realize that, and you see her trying to desperately cling to you to make you comfortable. And then the more she does that, the more it turns you off. And you're like, like, I really don't like you. I just needed you as a slump buster. And you don't want to say that because you're not a mean guy, or maybe you do say it and you are a mean guy, but you don't want to lie to her. However you do it, you start to see, I don't want to call it an exact equivalency, but the guys who have been through that situation where they have a slump buster that's just really clingy, they realize, oh, so this is about as close as I can come to understanding what a girl is like when she's with somebody who's just too comfortable and she's just not feeling attracted to him. It's that same feeling there. So in the same way that a girl can be physically unattractive, maybe she doesn't use makeup, she cuts her hair short, she gains a bunch of weight, you can be emotionally unattractive by being much too comfortable. Those nice guys, those beta Billy Bucks, those good fathers, they are essentially the fat chicks of the male of the male gender. So it's something to think about. So women, and we'll end off here with the growing into wholeness thing. Women can also attach to a heavily alpha man and simply lack emotional comfort in the relationship. They turn to a male friend and forge a deep emotional affair as a way of balancing out their need. Infidelity in women can easily start not from the need of sex, but from the need of intimacy. She may not be sexually attracted to her male friend, but still have sex with him as a way of securing his continuing emotional connection to her. So don't say there's no chance with orbiters. If you've really got a hardcore alpha dude, you have a chance of sneaking in there and being a little sneaky bastard with him. So for men, it's largely the task of working on the weaker area of their personality to find balance. An alpha male needs to grow up and tone down the antics slightly, become a little more socially conscious and more of a team player. Beta males, to which I would say 90% of guys now, need to grow a pair and start bumping back on the rest of the world rather than just taking it lying down. Either way works as a route, and it's a process to get there. You already know where your weak area is, so work on that for easy gains. So this chapter covered alpha and beta as general concepts. The next chapters are going to expound a little more on the examples of what are good versions of both. Now, I know I talked in the last episode about how I hate shopping lists of alpha and beta, and it's better for guys just to test it for themselves to see which ones work. Like I said, you can trust me, because I know what I'm talking about. But I'm only one guy. Rolo's only one guy. Rich is only one guy. Most guys don't know what they're talking about, or they know exactly what they're doing, and they just want your money. And the best way to do that is tell you by being a good father. That's like that Order of Men Facebook group. Testicular cancer. Oh, well, did you pray hard enough at church? Well, I don't know why she's not sexually attracted to you. You're like, dude, stop dragging people to the slaughter like this. And then last topic I'll talk about before we end this episode, the growing into wholeness thing. A lot of people have nebulous terms to describe this. In this case, Athol talks about growing into wholeness. Glover talks about fully integrated men. Rolo talks about it being your own mental point of origin. And guys like me, Corey, Wine More Please, we talk about it as frame. I like frame because it's a very all-encompassing term. There's no emotional wishy-washiness attached to it. Like growing into wholeness makes you feel like you're leveling up. Or a fully idealized man makes it sound like there's one path from wimp to man, and you have to go down that linear path. And that's not true, because there's no linear path to this. As you've seen, it's all about different nebulous terms and kind of weaving a path in it that works in your situations. There's no singular path for every man in here. I cannot offer you guys a roadmap to get from A to B. I just can't. Because you guys have all different A's, all different B's, and you're not going to work the same way in everybody. So that's why I like frame. Frame is essentially how you perceive reality, and if your frame is strong enough, how others perceive reality through you. Because most things aren't objectively there. Like fire is hot, don't touch the stove. That stuff is about as far as you're going to get into an objective, fact-based truth. For a lot of the things, it's good for some people, it's bad for some people. It's all hypothetical. It's bad if this is your goal, it's good if this is your goal. So everything is contextual here. And what I like about frame is frame assumes an even mental point of origin. Frame and your mental point of origin assumes you as the central focus, you as the protagonist in your own life story. And if you can start there, if you can define your A very clearly, getting to B becomes much easier than just, yeah, well, we're men and MBTI and, you know, horoscopes and blah, blah, blah. You're like, oh, dude, you don't even know what you want. You're just acting like a child. So I hope you guys enjoy that. I see some super chats. So we're ending the episode here and we'll deal with these ones here. Thanks for your patience, guys. First one, Simple Fly. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Fantastic analysis. Please speak to men making themselves the priority and seeking a red pill therapist if necessary. That is a topic in and of itself. I don't like suggesting therapy only because people use that as a way to offload their responsibility. Or, you know, even if you don't have responsibility, it's nice. Nobody will fault you for saying you should go seek mental health because it sounds good. Health is good. Mental means your brain's not working. Like I said, there's a research paper that just came out recently here. I actually have it in front of me right now. I'm getting around to finishing it. It's in the Yearbook of Physical Anthropology. June 27th, 2019. Accepted 24 October. It's in the 2020 episode by Christine L. Syme and Edward H. Hagen. Mental health is biological health, while tackling diseases of the mind is an imperative for biological anthropology in the 21st century. And what they're describing is that the way mental health has been appropriated right now for basically medication purposes, it's really not helpful. It hasn't had any good benefits over the last 50 years that they can measure. I have to get through it to see how much of it is good, how much of it is bad, if there's supporting research, whatever. But yeah, seeing a therapist, I wouldn't say is necessary. Honestly, the path is the same as it is for everybody. Get your physical, if your problem is you're in a relationship, too much comfort, too much desire, but not enough comfort, just dial up your weakness, dial back your other one. If the problem is emotional health, if it's depression, the first thing you got to do is get your physical body in order. Like, hormones affect us to a level that we shouldn't understand. And there's no way you've been watching these last 2 episodes and haven't understood how hormones can alter behavior to such an extreme extent. And so your physical health and what you put into your body are going to have a huge effect on you over the time. If you physically cannot bring yourself to work out and eat right because of whatever mental issues you're having, then yeah, there's a case to be made for medication there. It kind of tones down the lows just enough so you can start doing these things to kickstart your own process. But again, beyond that, I have a hard time recommending it. But at the same time, I'm just some idiot on the internet. Do you really want to be taking my advice when it comes to like practice medical therapy? But it's kind of off topic, so we'll leave it there. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. Next episode will probably be next week. I got to set up some more stuff for the rest of the week here. We'll see how it goes. And I'll talk to you later. There she is. This is where we do 22 seconds of end card stuff. We can watch the rain. I got to redo this one. I think tomorrow it's probably going to rain a bit. Too much zooming in and out. But I do like this one. Picture some lo-fi beats in the background. All right, guys. Cheers.